Those of you concerned about the loss of the family farm in American agriculture today should visit the Norton Dairy located in Elba, New York. Elba is midway between Buffalo and Rochester. And on the dairy here, they've been milking cows for more than 100 years. Ellsworth Sr. 50 years ago was milking 6 cows, and he was doing that by hand. Today, 7 family members have teamed together, and they're operating a dairy milking 600 cows 3 times a day. Let's meet some of those family members and find out their story. Good morning, Kurt. It's good to see you this morning.
Morning.
Can I ask you to introduce the rest of your family team here?
Yes, I may. This is my brother Dean. Dean takes care of the office and ordering things and all the bank financial stuff, payroll. My brother Chris, he's assistant herdsman, if you will. He takes care of all the heifers and feed, and he manages the feeder. My brother Charlie, he's the maintenance manager. He's always fixing, and once in a while he gets out in the fields. And of course my father, Ellsworth Norton, nicknamed Chubby. He is the overseer of all of us. He's the butt kicker, if you will. And my mother is the secretary. She takes care of all the bills, and she's a full-time referee for all of us.
Okay, Kurt, we have one person missing from the family team, and who's that?
That is my wife, Carol. She has been with us about 3 weeks. She quit her job in town and come here, and she's under Chris's thumb taking care of replacement heifers. So, and she helps my mother and Dean in the office a little bit. So. And my dad's going to talk about the history a little bit when we started.
It started way back when Dad started back in the 30s. He started with the pails, milking by hand. I started in the 59, 60 I went to college. Started in 61 if you want to be precise. Off college. 64 we built a parlor, our first parlor, which was a double 4. We changed that over to a Germania in 87. Before that it was a competitor, Chore Boy. We just outgrew it. When my boys came back, we wanted to grow. My dad wanted to get out. My brother was with me. He wanted to get out. But I wanted to grow and my boys wanted to grow, so we grew in the last couple of years. From 160, 180 cows down there double 4 to 600 and some we're milking today. That's the gist of it, but without the family it wouldn't have been done, because I had 4 boys working with me and a wife to keep us all in line.
Okay, Chubby, now that we know where you are today in your double 20 milking 600 cows, let me ask Kurt. Kurt, what do you see for the future?
Well, in the short future, the near future, we're working on getting Affy milk computerization in within hopefully 3-4 months. Get it in by summer is our plans for the short term. Long term or mid term, I would say we're hopefully in another 2, maybe 3 years looking at putting another barn up, going to 1,000 or 1,200 cows. Then we'd add a cow pusher so we could put them all through the double 20 still in the same 8-hour shift. And beyond that, you know, we're not going to short ourselves. I'm sure if we're all going to be here in 15 years, 1,200 cows isn't going to cut it either. We're going to have to double, maybe triple by then. I would say have to be 5,000 to 6,000 cows.
Okay,
in 10, 20 years. So.
All right, and in just 15 years, you're 30 years old now?
Yes.
So that's going to make you 45. You still
Right.
now have at least 20 years after that, right?
Right, yeah.
For future growth,
So,
okay.
to stay in the dairy, and I mean, you're going to continue to grow or you're going to get mowed over. And I see in 20 years, I don't know, maybe even 5,000 will be not enough. So, you just go with the times and continue to grow and go from there.
Kurt and Lisa, we're just about ready to milk. The cows are waiting for us there, so got a couple of questions ahead of time. Lisa, your last name is Daniela.
Daniela.
Daniela, good Italian name. You have worked for the Norton Dairies for how long?
Almost a year.
What was your background before you started here?
Well, I've been a bookkeeper for 9 years, and I'm going to college, and I bartended my first year through college, and now I milk cows.
And what about before you started milking cows? You ever been around cows?
No. Besides to pet them at a petting zoo or something.
Oh, in a petting zoo.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a vast experience. I mean,
Yeah.
that sort of qualifies you as a milker, you know. Kurt, very unusual to hire a person from totally outside the industry.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, there was two things. One was I wanted somebody who I could train and do it my way instead of bringing in here and having all the bad habits from the neighbor farms. You bring them in and then they, you show them how to do it and then they'll want to do it their way anyways. And you're always on it. So I wanted to try somebody from scratch. And to be honest with you, Lisa wasn't my first choice. She was my second choice. We had a couple days to get over that. But once we did, it took me from start to finish about a month before she was streamlined and just milking on her own consistently. I milked with her for a week, trained with her for a week, and then I left her on her own. And it was harder to train somebody from scratch, but in the long run, it's paid off because she does it the Norton Farm way and the way that we want it done, and she's very good at it. And she's very fast and probably the best one we got.
Sounds impressive. Lisa, getting used to the farm life, I mean, it doesn't sound like you grew up on a farm and you come from a city or from somewhere, right? So all of a sudden you're stuck with a whole bunch of cows for good, for a living, forever. What about it?
It's fun. It's great. The cow, you just have to love the cows and talk nice to them and tell them what you want them to do and treat them like they're intelligent. And they do want to milk. And they're pretty good most of the time. Sometimes you get a stubborn one, but you just take your time, try not to get upset, and
Nothing to it.
nothing to it.
The other one, Kurt, is, it's a very large parlor for one person. We're looking at double 20. You had a double 16 until a couple, 2-3 months ago, expanded a double 20. No difficulty from your point or from Lisa's point of view, for that matter, operating a double 16 initially?
No, initially we wanted a double 20 because I've seen it work at off houses, and I knew we could do it, and with our staff that we had then. And you see Lisa milk, and she'll still be standing there waiting for units to come off of this side, so 20 still isn't enough.
Oh, yeah.
When we went from 16 to 20, I started, what did I do this for? But after a month and a half, 2 months have gone by. They're coming in good, and I'm glad we did it. And like I said, now Lisa, they're all waiting when one side is ready to be post-dipped, and they're still waiting for cows. And it's within 8 minutes. We're hanging the side in 7. We give the cows 8 minutes to milk out, so they're still hanging on. So there's no doubt in my mind that 24 would work.
Right.
So the 20 is working great, and Lisa will prove that when she's milking.
What specific milking routine are you using? Can you run through one complete cycle?
Yeah.
Let's say we open the entrance gate.
Okay, we open the entrance gate. The cows come in, usually by themselves. The milker will stand up front for 30 seconds. If they don't come in, they'll go get one and prime the pump, so to speak. They'll grab one and bring her up, and the rest will follow. We index. We dip 10 cows. Come back up front, wipe and attach, wipe and attach, wipe and attach. 10 units. And then she pre-dips the next 10, closes the gate, hangs the dipper on the other side. If she's opening up, starting a new side, she'll open the gate then. And then she'll come back and do the number 11, 12, 13, 14, wipe and attach. And then she'll start, if the cows have come up, she'll start here on the left-hand side, same way.
If that's the first group on that
If
side.
that's the first group. She'll dip 10 and then 10. And then when she's done dipping the 20th cow, she'll hang the dipper on the other side again, the one she started on, and she'll leave it there. When she hangs an 11 through 20 on this side, she'll go over there and post-dip all the way up. So we're trying to utilize every step that we take, we're doing something. We're not walking back and forth more than we have to. That's the whole key, being able to milk and hang a whole side of units in 7 minutes is limit your steps and put them units on in 10 seconds or less.
Yeah, so you minimize walking.
Right.
Because it is a long parlor for one person, so if she were to do unnecessary walking,
Right.
that would add up. But one more time, so she post-dips forward. When she comes up front, then what happens?
She hits the brisket bar up button, comes up, .12 seconds, 8 seconds, it's back down. the new side. She'll stand here, she'll empty her towels, load up with the new ones, and usually by then the cows are trotting up in here, and she'll wait for them to come up, and she'll hit index and start all over again. 10 and 10. That's the routine. Simple. It gets monotonous. It's just same thing over and over again.
You say the same thing over and over again. Now you have different milkers, not just Lisa, right? You milk
Right.
3 times a day.
3 times a day.
So who are the other milkers?
Right now, we're training a new milker, but Kim is presently our morning milker. Lisa comes in at 1:15 and gets ready for the second milking at 2 o'clock. And then Paul, our night guy, comes in at 9 o'clock. He pushes feed and does a few other things, sets up, and he starts at 10. Mm-hmm. And that's the routine.
Okay, and I assume you trained those milkers to use the identical routine?
Everybody uses the same routine, and when they do stray from it, I have a camera here and I tape. Once a week, everybody is taped, and I watch, and they don't know when it's going to be. And it isn't to catch them doing something wrong, it's to train them and make sure everybody's consistent. You know as well as I know, I've been in it long enough to know that cows love boredom and consistency. If everybody's doing something the same way, if everybody opens that gate at the same time, 8 hours apart, then, or 12 hours apart, then, you know, the same cow's going to come up first every time. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do. Everybody goes out in the barn and gets the cows in the same way. And everybody does everything the same way, and I'm a stickler on it. Some people say I'm anal, but there's a reason I am that way. Mm-hmm. There's a method to my madness. And it's to make it pleasant to work in here. When the cows are coming in, I tell you, the milkers coming in, oh, the cows are coming in great, you know, I'm liking it. When they're not coming in, like we have a fresh group, and sometimes they can get on your nerves, and it bothers you a little bit. But for the most part, the cows come in very good in here. And that was the hardest part, getting people to believe that they'll come in alone.
And then work with
without
it,
going back and getting,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, we'll get a chance to watch this in just a minute. I'm getting a little bit nervous because the cows are moving.
The cows
in the
are moving,
background.
they want to get milk.
The pressure is building. So, Lisa, he said, you know, double 16, double 20, maybe even double 24 because you're still standing around. You agree with that? I mean, double 24 sounds like a mighty big parlor to me.
Eventually, when he's ready. That means an awful lot of new cows, and new cows always mean adjustments.
But you feel you could operate it? Mm-hmm. No problem.
No problem.
How many cows do you milk?
We're milking right now, 600 are going through the parlor.
And what's the average age of the herd?
The average age is around 2.5 years, because we bought quite a few heifers last year.
Very young herd.
There's quite a few.
And what's the somatic cell count?
It's bouncing between 180 and 200
okay.
right now.
Bacteria counts, quality of the milk?
Bacteria is always very good, 2,000 running right around there. So.
Okay, new mastitis infections, how often can you figure on a new clinical case?
A new clinical case, probably maybe one every 2 weeks or one a week, sometimes depending on the time of year, you know.
Yeah.
But it's hot and dry or really cold, then you know you don't get very many. But.
On a normal day, light switch on to light switch off would take you how long? You know what I'm getting at? From the first walk in, set everything up until you leave, turn the light switch off. How many hours?
7 hours and 45 minutes normally.
Okay. That includes setup and cleanup and everything. Mm-hmm. First cow in to last cow out would take how long?
Probably about 5 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay. Now, that includes, there's no cow pusher here, right? So you have to get your own cows.
Yeah, that's getting my own cows.
Okay. When you're out of the parlor, there's nothing happening in the parlor. Parlor's empty.
Right.
For how long?
20 minutes.
For 20 minutes, and that's 3 times.
3 times.
Okay, so it's really, your milking time for the normal production group, which is about 580 cows, would be 4 hours and 15 minutes.
Correct.
Okay. That's really all we need to know at this point. Lisa, we'll let you go to work, take care of those sweethearts out there, and we'll watch you a little bit as you do what you do best, right?
No problem.
let's follow Lisa around for maybe a couple of turn-ins and see what this milking routine looks like in real life. I'll step out of the way so we can watch Lisa doing her job. She just hung the tit dipper up on the 10th cow, walks forward, wipes and touches the first cow, 2 tit cups at a time, by the way. That's a little bit of a trick. Takes getting used to, but usually after a week or 10 days, the milkers pick up on it pretty darn good. One thing we might do is while we are watching her, and we'll probably watch her for maybe 20 minutes straight now, is run a clock on how long it takes her to attach. It's a great way to milk cows. I'm sure you recognize that watching the tape. 1 milker, 40 machines. In this case, a milker who a year ago had no prior knowledge about milking whatsoever, and yet she picked it right up, milking maybe 135 cows per hour. We had the actual cows per hour on the screen a little earlier. Got a minor problem with the tit tip hose there getting tangled up in the water hose. Interesting question is, do we even need those 4 water hoses in the back there? My personal opinion, no, we don't. But Kurt loves to have those 6 water hoses, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, 2 in the back. One part you may not realize is with the single tit dip, both pre-dip and post-dip hose, not only is that hose always exactly where the milker needs it, but it has the additional benefit of keeping the pit wide open and clean and straight. Obviously, since the milker has to use that hose on all 40 machines, there can be nothing parked in the center or the hose would get tangled up on it. Makes for a neat parlor. There's no temptation to even park the usual garbage you see in so many parlors on either 1, 2, or 3 rusted up tables or temporarily borrowed shopping carts. One part we still don't like about these parlors are the noisy milk pumps, and we'll address that point a little later. All right, cross over, start post-dipping forward. A couple of cows seem to take a little longer to milk out. Fascinating point we're watching here is that we have a milker milking maybe 130, 140 cows an hour, and regularly, not just occasionally, regularly gets some time to stand around the way we are observing it here. Now, that obviously would not be the case when she is milking the low producing string. The machine on time would be somewhat less, and that's just about the 30 seconds to a minute she has on this group to to take a break, waiting for the last few cows to milk out. Okay, cows go out on their own, brisket bar comes down. Lisa tries to stay in the front and wait the cows out. This time around that should work very well. We can see the first cow entering in the back there. And usually once the first cow comes in by herself, the other ones follow through pretty good. Well, and then again, maybe not. The point of the exercise being that for absolutely certain she doesn't go into the holding pen ever to chase cows. Now let me even correct that a little bit. She may have to go in there when she brings in a number of fresh cows at the same time. Conceivably, she may have to assist those 1 or 2 cows to find the way into the parlor. Assisting them coming into the parlor is all right. Training them, showing them the way, that's all right. But obviously it's not okay to ever go in the holding pen to chase cows into the parlor. That's one of the greatest sins committed as far as I'm concerned. The reason this timing is so important, the reason we like to discuss it repeatedly, is that you may or may not be familiar with the timing studies, milking routine timing studies done by the University of Arizona, first and foremost, but by several other universities too. And if you have a chance to get a report, get these research reports, you may want to take a look at them. It's important because the timing reported in those studies are vastly different. In other words, much, much higher than what you're seeing here. And so, with all due respect to these studies done by various universities, no doubt those are correct times found in the parlors they studied, but those parlors obviously have nothing to do with the milking routine we're watching here, and that's exactly why we have always called this kind of milking a whole new way of life. Profoundly productive herringbone parlors with arm takeoffs, a genuinely whole new way of life. First of all, one person only, great number of machines, regularly 100 to and recently up to 175 cows per man hour, harvesting milk at the rate of 3,500 to maybe 5,200, 5,300 pounds per man hour. It's a different way of milking cows and then some. You're all done, right, with this group? Okay, very good. You're going to wait until this side is done, post-dip them, let them go, and then take all the cows back.
Correct.
So where is Lisa? She just took the dirty towels out. She's reloading clean towels while she's waiting for the cows on our left side here to finish up. Interesting question, by the way, as long as Lisa is involved in other things. Should one milker milk, in this case, 600 cows all by herself, or do we need a cow pusher? And then the real question is, what if this herd starts increasing to 700 cows or 800 cows? Do we need a cow pusher? And that's every dairyman's own decision and setup, but here's my opinion. The answer is no. You see, Lisa needs an 8-hour shift, and I bet you she also would work for 8.5 or 9 hours if the need were to be there, because she gets paid for it. If one milker indeed can milk, in this case comfortably 6 hours, light switch on to light switch off, 600 cows in 7 hours and 45 minutes, then we got a wonderful setup. No cow pusher needed. We save that one person per shift, which is really 3 people. Now the question is, she says she's gone for 20 minutes. Could we do that for 700 cows or 750 cows? I'm going to say absolutely yes. Now the Nortons may disagree, but we'll see as the time goes by and the future gets here. I'm going to bet they're going to try it. Why am I so positive about that? Because right now this parlor is under no pressure whatsoever. Add another 150 cows. All Lisa has to do is may speed up a tiny bit in the parlor, cut the time short in the stall getting cows, crunch everything just a little bit, and I would bet she's going to get done milking the cows in about 7 hours and 7 hours and 15 minutes. Then the milker from the next shift would be there already. In other words, both milkers would work 9-hour shifts, overlap during the cleanup and setup. So that goes a little bit faster, and both milkers, or all milkers now, are on 9-hour shifts, making good money, and the owner, in my opinion, will get 700 to 750 cows milked with genuinely only one person looking after the job, including pushing cows. Not bad, if you can get it. Okay, there's the last group of cows from the first string. And she's driving the crowd gate back. And she'll now leave the parlor, go outside in the freestall barn, take the last cows out, change the gates. While she's following that group of cows out of the freestall barn, she has a rake with her, rakes the pies out of the stalls, the few of them that are there, and also scrapes the manure just a little bit on the corner here and there. She does not actually scrape the alleys.
Okay, Moose, come on. Up. 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 Yes.
Every milker has to have a favorite cow.
That's
My
right.
cow.
That makes it all worthwhile.
Ready to go.
You may be wondering how much a facility like this costs. And it's sort of like a bigger tractor. Obviously, it's not exactly cheap. But I want you to keep a couple of things in mind. Number one, when you do buy a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 piece of farm machinery, you only use it for a couple, 2, 3 months at the most per year. This piece of machinery, you're going to use 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. But the other thing on cost goes like this. Some of you will have picked up on the fact that this parlor turns maybe 3.8 to 4 turns per hour per side, when with a second person this parlor could easily turn 5 times per hour per side. In other words, it could easily milk 200 cows an hour instead of the 130, 140, 150 you're milking right now. Sometimes we hear the remark that this dairyman invested more money than necessary because he's not making full productive use of the investment. I beg to differ. Let's assume Kurt Norton invested $150,000 more than he needed to buy and install this parlor. He has to pull a figure out of the air, but it's probably in the ballpark. But look what he's doing labor productivity-wise and how much money it's saving him. There's only one person in the pit. Normally, somewhere else in the country, some other brand of equipment, you would have 2 people in the pit. That saves him, let's just say, 3 full-time people for sure, plus the relief per person, so that makes it 4 full-time people. Let's assume he's paying his people $25,000 to $30,000 a year, all taxes, social security, health insurance, vacation, and other benefits included. In other words, by installing a system of this type, Kurt saves every year a cool $100,000. If he indeed paid $150,000 more for this parlor than he might have paid for a smaller parlor of a different brand, he will have paid for that additional investment in exactly 18 months. And from then on, that $100,000 a year in labor savings goes straight into his pocket. An additional, every bit as significant financial factor here is that because there's only one person, this parlor is operated in an absolutely orderly manner. There is no confusion either for the milker or for the cows. In other words, we have an operation that is absolutely, totally predictable and consistent in the daily routine, all milkers, for all of the cows. And it is that absolute consistency that leads to this very quiet, relaxed milking that we're observing here. There's no, cows aren't kicking, they're coming in very orderly, and it is that calm and quiet and consistency that puts a measurable additional amount of money into the Norton's family bank account. Not only the labor savings, but the additional production from a perfectly calm, predictable, consistent milking routine.
Kurt, to plan a facility like this, it takes an awful lot of planning on your part. Let's take a look at some of the decisions that you made and why you made them. If we go all the way back to when you were milking in the double 4 parlor, how many people were operating those 8 units?
Well, if you want to go all the way back to the beginning when we first started with the chore boy, a lot of the time we had 2 people in there because it was a swing parlor. And it'd take 2 guys, you had to take them off and swing them to the next side and milk that side. So we had 2 people in a double 4 milking 80 to 100 cows. Not efficient. And when we changed it to the Germania with the 8 units with the automatic takeoffs, we did take the guy out of the parlor. So we had 1 person in the parlor. And it was still quite monotonous to milk because you'd get the 8 units hung and you were standing there waiting.
Okay, so you had all the stand around time.
Yes. And that wasn't with the best cow traffic in the world. We didn't have a crowd gate. And it just wasn't right. I mean, it wasn't right. We were standing there and, you want to pay a guy $10 an hour to sit and read a magazine, you can, but I don't really want to.
Okay.
And at that point, it was me doing it.
Okay, so you had then just the 1 person. How did you make the decision to build a double 16, figuring that 1 person can now handle 32 machines after they only handled 8?
A lot of that was when we decided that we wanted to milk more cows. We went around and we looked at other farms, and we were lucky enough to have a neighbor that had just expanded a double 20 Germania. And number 1, we liked the Germania because we had it for almost 8 years without having much problem. If we did have a problem, we could fix it ourselves. And we kind of made up our mind that we wanted a herringbone because Chris and myself were intending on milking in this parlor, and we don't want to milk through the legs and have all over you. So we went with the herringbone. That wasn't even a question. And we looked and investigated, and we went down to the Colliers, and these guys were with the double 20s, and they said they wouldn't have nothing but a double 20. And they were doing it with 1 person milking, and I thought, well, if they can do it, we can do it. There's no doubt in my mind we can do it. So we made up our mind that's what we were going to do, and we went at it.
Okay, a couple other decisions then. If you look at the height of your cow platform, we noticed the milker earlier this morning, Kim, she's a fairly short gal, and now Lisa's tall. Any problems with height?
Well, I tell you, Kim gets over, if you want to call it a disability, she gets around it because she's quite agile and she can maneuver herself in to get the units on. If we were going to do it again, I would look a little harder at the adjustable floor. I think the platform is for the average because 9 out of the 10 milkers are at least average height. Kim is a little bit shorter. I would keep it the way it is. I believe it's 38 inches. Unless you were going to go with a suspended floor. And that's something that we could have investigated a little more. They just, we didn't like the ones that they had out. They weren't error-free, if you want. There was a lot of maintenance to them, so we decided not to do it.
All right. Okay, then one thing in watching Lisa now, I think it was 2 times ago when we were here, you had the paper towels, now you went to cloth.
Yes.
What's the difference and why did you make the decision?
Cost was a large part of the decision because it was costing us quite a bit for the towels. And cleaning the teats of the cows. We just thought, when I milked myself, actually we could do it quicker with the single service towels, the paper towels. But they weren't cleaning the teats right. You'd have to use 1 or 2 paper towels. So you'd have to double if you want to figure this out fairly, you'd have to double the amount of paper towels you use because most of the time we use 2 paper towels to get them clean like I wanted them. So we used a cloth towel and it did a super job. So we just started investigating the washer and dryer, and we are lucky enough to have a local laundry, so we get quite a big amount of towels for very cheap. So it doesn't cost us very much to do this, just the washer and dryer. So we got a little bit invested in it, but it's super cheap. And they do a lot better job. The milk filters are cleaner.
Kurt, today it's a really cloudy day out. No sun. It was snowing earlier. It's raining now. So it's a damp, dreary day, but yet it's fairly bright in the parlor. You have good lighting. What decisions did you make there?
Well, again, using off houses down the road, they had these ultra walls put in on their parlor. And when we were there, like I said, when we want to go and tour a dairy, we want to go in there and pick out something that we want to change and do and make better. And lighting was part of it. They had the ultra walls, and we took that and we added these windows that are behind us here, actually in front of us here. So we figured the more light, the brighter, the better. We had our double floor down there. It was a dungeon. It was dingy. Nobody likes to milk in it. As you can see, it's beautiful in here, and the environment keeps people. You keep people happy, and you keep them motivated.
Okay, good. And it faces east too, so when the sun's coming up,
The sun comes up in the morning. It's almost as good as Montana.
All right, good. If you listen to the Parlor, it's quiet. And you designed the Parlor for the lowest possible noise.
Yes.
Tell us about the pulsators.
Well, we put in, shortly after we started, Bex come up with the idea to put in pulsator shutoffs. So number one, it would cut down on the noise, and number two, we could get another 5 to 10 days out of our inflations. But it is very nice when the pulsators are off. It's a lot quieter in here, and the quieter the environment, I think the better off it is. So that's why we went with it.
Okay, and you usually have music in here?
Yes, we usually have a country station. It's always country. That's why the radio's in my office locked most of the time. And I have it at a certain decibel. It's a certain volume, and it stays there. And it's consistent. That's why it's always country. It doesn't change from one milker to the next. It's always the same thing. And it's good for the flow. People, they have something to listen to. Otherwise, you'd go nuts, I think. That's our personal feeling. We've always had music growing up in a parlor, and we decided to go with it here.
Okay, did the cows decide on the country music, or was that your decision?
That was my decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed, before when we were talking and when Lisa was talking before, the milk pumps make an awful lot of noise. So
Right.
that's really the only noise that you have in the
Yes,
parlor?
that is the only noise that we have, and I say when I'm rolling the camera, that's the only interference I have is with the milk pumps that are the receiver jars.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your ventilation and the type of windows that you have?
Okay, the ventilation, again, the ultra walls, as you can see on the left and right side, they come down in the summer, or even if it gets above 50, we usually put the ultra walls down and they stay down. And the ventilation is awesome. When you got air movement, we have very few flies in here, and the doors open and the front windows open, and it's just very nice, comfortable place to work. Even when it's hot out. Our hottest day last year, it was still very comfortable in here milking. So,
Okay.
one thing I can elaborate on that is with our design here, the way we have the parlor set away from all the other barns, and the utility room is away from it, so we can get that ventilation and we can get the light from both sides of the parlor. That was something that we had changed and we liked a lot, was getting the parlor away from any other building for the ventilation and the light.
Okay, good. One other thing, with the floor mats, comfort
Yes.
for the milkers.
Basically, it wasn't there for looks, it's for comfort, milkers, the knees, the back. Again, down in our old parlor, we had cement for quite a few years, and our back started to hurt, and we got mats down there, and it was a no-brainer when we moved up here that we were going to have them. So that's why we put them in. Again, for milker comfort.
Kurt, looking up there, you have a video camera. How come?
Again, shortly after we moved in, we got the video camera because when we first started, our hardest part was knowing what was going on when we weren't here at night and when I wasn't around in the afternoon or the morning at certain times. The tape allows me to tape them and to see what they're doing wrong, and the best part of the camera is training. It works very good for a training tool. We usually have a milkers meeting once a month and we tape everybody. I usually tape everybody once a week. They don't know when it's going to be, so it keeps everybody honest in here, as well as helps me train them and make sure we can move cows through here the way we should be.
Okay, so you're showing them then what they're doing right and then where they can
Exactly.
improve.
It isn't there to fire somebody. That's what a lot of people, get all worried and then we're going to get fired because you're watching me on camera. That isn't what we have it for. We have it for training and to correct mistakes and problems, and that's what it has done, and that's paid for itself, umpteen times over. So
Okay, good.
it's been a great tool for us.
In other parlors that we've seen, there's usually a ladder here to get up to the platform. How do you get up to the platform?
Well, we go around, we have stairs over here on the other side, on each side. We have stairs to go up. Some of the ones we visited had ladders, and they look like a danger trap to us. Plus, who wants to climb a ladder to get, if you had a choice, if a ladder was sitting here in steps, you'd go up the steps. They worked it into the design of the parlor, so it wasn't very much more cost, so we had the steps put in.
Okay. And I noticed that you have quite a few safety lights, both up front there and over on the side. Do you want to explain those?
We'll start over here. We have one light for each bulk tank. The milkers when the light is on, they know that the cooler is on. If neither one of them lights are on, the milkers are supposed to look up there now and again. It tells when the coolers are on or off. If they're not on, then obviously they didn't start it, so they better do it. And if it's been too long, they should tell us about it. So that's what they're for. We have one here for the high pressure pumps. That's so we don't leave the switch on and burn the pump up. One for the calf milk, which is the treated cows. It goes into a separate tank. When that light is on, they know they can milk into the sick cows into that tank. If it's not on and they start milking them, then it goes into the other tank and it's trouble. We get contamination. Mm-hmm. And the other one is a gutter flush. That is also a pump. It runs a motor, and if they leave that on, it'll burn the motor out. So that's what they're for.
All right, good. And I noticed that you have quite a few decals all over. Now the lights are well marked. They've got the engraved decal with the stainless steel screws in there, and you have quite a few other labels throughout.
Yes. Well, basically a lot of that is for, even if people think they've been here a long time, they look up and they know what they're for. I can speak for the ones here for side 1 and side 2. If a milker's got a unit that isn't working, they write on the board side 1, number 18. Otherwise, they'll write number 18. You don't know which side it is. It's a little more investigation. It works. It's nice that they can just identify, one side of the parlor or the other.
Okay.
So that's why we did it.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt.
You're welcome.
One aspect of an installation like this is the dealer and the Nortons have been quite fortunate of working with Don Beck Incorporated. Talking to Mick this morning here, this was Mick's baby pretty much. Mick, a couple of things I want you to explain to us. Number 1 is the vacuum pump. Number 2 is some of the installation details. Tell us about the vacuum pump first. There's some rather dramatic developments over the last 12 months.
What we've done is we have 2 Alpha valve 20 horsepower vacuum pumps. We alternate every 30 days. One is for redundancy built into the system. 2 is it allows them in the event that they should lose a pump, they have no downtime. They open a valve and go ahead and start milking again. The other issue is we're also using an e-tron variable speed vacuum pump controller. It's also the vacuum controller, and that allows us to use the 60 hertz of electric coming in at 480. It slows our average hertz of electricity down here to around 20 hertz. We also done one thing different here on this dairy is after we were up and running for a short term, we also turned the pulsators off, and that also slowed us down even more, so it gets us down to that 11 or 12 hertz of electricity, so that they're not buying additional electricity, and their average cost here is about 14 cents a kilowatt cost of electricity. This allows them to take advantage of lower speed vacuum pumps, the wear and tear on the belts, the bearings, and maintenance on vacuum controllers and stuff like that. And it seems to work. It's worked out quite well over the last 18 months. The return on their investment for the runtime here is less than 8 months. We're not picking up any heat or anything off of that because we're turning the vacuum pump so slow. We've taken the noise level, and we can stand here all day and talk just the way we are. And the other issue is, instead of sucking all that air into the system and bringing the dirty air into the system, or even bringing it through filters, is now that there's no air admission. We're controlling that with electronic signal so that there's less airflow into the system, allows the system to be tighter and cleaner and drier. Wash up, we have 2 options. We choose to run the pump up to full speed, let the controller work, and we also, at that time, we'll bring the airflow up an 1.5 inches higher so we get a better turbulence in the line and in the claws.
Mick, in the milk house here, we've got some filters on the rack. Do you want to explain those to us?
Sure. What we do here on Norton's farm is they use the filters that are on the rack here to check each milker for how good of a job that they're doing in an udder prep, and it also allows them to follow through on a quality program. And each milker is required to change the filter between the groups of cows. And they start with a clean filter, and they put a filter in prior of milking, and then they change it here. Then you can see the organic matter, it's starting to build up on the filter here. This is about 3/4 of the way through. They put a new filter in, and then they put a new filter in to wash. This allows each group of milkers, him or her, to be checked, and if we get into a quality issue, we can see if they're doing a good job with udder prep and stuff like that, and also if they're overusing iodine and something like that, you'll see stains of iodine and stuff in there. And it's turned out to be a quite real good management tool.
Okay, is that management tool unique to this area?
We got into some quality problems years ago, and we came up with the idea, and because this way you can tell if an employee has washed off the filter and stuff like this, and they're required that you can see that it's got a milk substance and the organic matter that's on it, that they can't bolt the owner or the manager. So this allows them to do that kind of stuff with that, and then they throw them away after each day.
Okay, and is this for just your larger dairies? What happens if you have a double 10, double 12?
Generally, if they're using 3 milkers, what we're starting to do is we're doing it for each milking, so we can catch to see if we have a quality or a coliform problem in that dairy being of udder prep.
Okay, thank you.
Reverse osmosis unit for water treatment. Very unusual in a dairy farm. I've only seen it in one other place that was overseas. Why did you invest in a unit like this? What was the problem?
The groundwater in this area of the country is high in sulfates, and the tests were coming back with 1,000 parts per million, and the suggested range for a cow is no higher than 250 parts per million.
And you said that's sulfates.
Sulfates.
Sulfates,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. It's like a gypsum or lime is what it is. And we knew we had to do something because it was affecting the cows. They were going down in milk production. When we were down in the old facility, we had a salt-based system where we were putting 7 bags of salt in a week. That was taking care of the problem, but we knew when we were coming up here, that would be a major expense as far as time and money for the salt. So we thought we'd invest in something different.
Okay. And you say it affected the cows in production going down.
Yes.
What range or percentage, or if you know that?
We could be at 72 pounds going into the spring time of year, and we would drop down to 65 to 64 pounds a cow.
Due to bad water, basically.
Bad water.
Is that right?
And we could taste it ourselves when we were drinking it.
Yeah. Okay, unit like this costs how much?
The unit alone was about $24,000. But after we got done, we put it in an 8,000 gallon reservoir tank. When we got done, we were well over $30,000
Initial investment.
initial investment.
What about operating costs?
Operating costs, it's costing us somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. That's for the added chemicals. Right now we're adding soda ash. That helps bring the pH back up to a 7, because when you're putting the water through, it brings the pH down to a 5.4, which is an acid base. So we need to bring that back up to at least a 7 for the cows, and that's what that's for. And the anti-scaling here is just to keep the membranes loose so things don't collect on them, so we get a longer life out of them.
Reverse osmosis system can be bought pretty much any big town in America, right?
I would say so.
Right.
I would say so. Check with
Okay.
any of your water suppliers.
Okay, very good, Dean.
Thanks for all.
Appreciate it. Lisa's almost done milking, and so we may as well wrap it up. What we try to provide you with is an overview of what a well put together family farm looks like in Western New York. All in all, not so bad, is it? Particularly when you consider the future in view of the past. Some 4, 5, 6, 7 cows they started with 2 generations ago. There's no doubt whatsoever if they stick with it, they're going to end up with 3, 4, 5, 6,000 cows looking 10, 20, 30 years ahead. One piece of good news. We're just coming off a period with sky-high milk prices, and I know this is February, March, April. It'll go down next 3, 4, 5 months by 3, 4, 5 bucks. But there's one thing I want you to consider. Over the last 7 years, the average milk price paid to all dairymen in America has steadily gone up. Now you're going to say, how do you know that? There's a publication in Wisconsin, it's the Agribusiness News by John Onken, and the phone number is right there on the screen. And John publishes milk prices every month going back I don't know how many years. And the other day I took the average milk price per year and put it on a chart. And there it is. And that's the good news about our industry, namely that the milk price we are paid in America is steadily going up. Only slightly, not dramatically, but nevertheless it's going up, and it needs to be said because nobody has pointed it out. And by the way, there's a reason for that. Some 7 years ago, the Danish Dairy Board made a worldwide study of milk supply and demand, looked at all parts of the world, Australia to Japan to North America to Europe, and came to the conclusion that the supply of milk will be going down ever so slightly for 10, 20 years in the future, while the demand for milk will be going up every year, ever so slightly. And by golly, they said the trend would start in 91, 92, and you look at the data, that's exactly what has happened. Let's project that into the future, next 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. And the dairy industry is already the most profitable branch of agriculture in America, other than Mariana certainly. And it looks a whole lot better for the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again some other time.
Have you ever wondered what the almost perfect parlor looks like? If you're planning to build a new milking parlor, or if you want to see just how beautiful a milking parlor can be, you need to see this videotape, The Grootendorf's Dairy in the Pursuit of Perfection. The Grootendorf's Dairy, located in Ontario, Canada, is the almost perfect parlor. Now we know that we can't achieve perfection, but on this dairy, we've come as close to perfection as we can possibly get. You can't believe it. It's simply beautiful. The attention to detail is amazing, and it's truly a state-of-the-art facility. You won't want to miss it. Order your videotape today, The Grootendorf's Dairy in the Pursuit of Perfection. A new record in parlor productivity. That's one person operating 48 machines, milking 1,086 cows in just a little over 6 hours and harvesting 5,321 pounds of milk per man-hour. That's what's happening almost daily at the Maple Row Dairy in Saranac, Michigan. And results like that don't just happen. It's the combination of management, the milkers, the cows, the equipment, all coming together and working together just right. Jim and John Hardy, the owners of Maple Row, know exactly what they want from the world around them. Their employees, their cows, their suppliers, and just life in general. Their management technique focuses first and foremost on teamwork. Working together and relying on strength and experience has brought the Hardy team to where they are today. See parlor productivity at its finest and order your videotape today, the 1998 ProTime Parlor of the Year. Are you interested in finding out what makes Germania parlors work as well as they do? Then you'll want to watch this videotape, Parlor Automation for the Next Century. We'll show you 8 complete product groups in detail. ProTime stalls, CIP system, cow traffic system, automatic back flushing, the AccuWeigh milk weighing system, top outlet claws, arm takeoff units, and the receive-all system. Find out why milking in a Germania ProTime parlor is a whole new way of life. Order your videotape today, Parlor Automation for the Next Century.